So I just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Greg Runyon, followed
Do you have
by,
any questions? No?
yeah, followed by Miguel Fernandez.
I need to hear what you're saying. Somebody was giving my name and whatnot. Yeah, I'm wearing this because I have
Just thanking you, Ms.
I have a
Brown.
hearing problem.
Time is up, thank you.
And I still have the noise from the dang
Yeah.
trains. So I don't hear
Yeah.
it unless I go outside.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
And these other people don't hear it either anymore because they got the, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Go ahead, Mr. Runyon. You have 2 minutes left, please. Just kidding. We already started the clock.
All right.
Just kidding.
I live near Teal Club, and a lot of concerns that people have are all legitimate. But we are all faced with the challenge. And I think this may be something that will begin to identify you as a council. The ability to think, to problem solve. The mistake all of us make is we demand perfection when perfection is not possible. This will not be a perfect project. But the question becomes, is it a good project? Is it going to meet the needs of our residents now and future residents? I cannot afford a home. And as a renter, challenges come up. And the opportunity to have a home is important. I'm sitting here realizing that because I have a landlord that's not happy with me right now. And to realize at 61 that I don't have the stability that some people do because I don't own my home. And to have that opportunity is important. I wish we could test everything. But life is about risks. I hope my airbags deploy. I hope nobody runs a red light. I hope, but you know what? There's risk. And the one thing I heard that really got me thinking, not got me going, but just got me thinking. If there is a tax that is attached to something and I know it, I don't need somebody else telling me that's not good. And I don't need somebody else coming in and saying, well, you can. Some people think that, what, if I don't like my neighbor, let's put it to a vote. No, you learn to live. And my best friend was going to buy a home at River Park. And he saw the property tax and said, not for me. And good for him. And to all the people who bought a home at River Park, good for them. Part of the free society is that we're free to make choices. And your choice today is, does this project meet the needs of residents now and in the future? And I hope you vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Runyon. We'll go to Mr. Fernandez. Then Kristen Meeks will follow. Thank you.
So I've got some handouts just to describe what I'm talking about. I could probably do it verbally, but it's easier just to go with graphics. And as much as I hate the idea of losing the farmland here, and I live just up the street from here, and it's been an amenity for the last 35 years that I've enjoyed being next to, I'm in general favor of the proposed project. What I'm here to talk about tonight, and it's perhaps just a little bit premature and could be something that should be discussed for the tentative act a little bit later on. But I know that Doris Avenue is a drag strip. I mean, people just scream down Doris Avenue. So when this project gets developed and the details of it get a little bit further codified, I'm advocating for adding traffic circles at the intersection of Doris and Coronado, where the project proposes to extend Coronado from the existing housing to the north into the new project. And if you look at the drawing that I've provided, which is actually from the specific plan, I just added the red notes on the left. It shows a traffic circle right in there that they're proposing. I'm proposing to add one just to the north, right there at the intersection with Doris, as a traffic calming measure, and also to help with the flow of traffic. When you've got the school site developed later on, there may be times when that traffic is going to be flowing through there, just like it does at Gonzales. The other thing I'm also proposing is potentially looking at other opportunities, like, for example, that street that's shown on the drawing, as it intersects with Doris, that could also be a potential use or location for a traffic circle. So that's basically what I'm talking about now. Also, I wanted to say that in the future for phase 2, which is not up for real consideration right now, phase 2 indicates in this area that's sort of purple, the PA13, that could be light industrial or business park usage, just because it's compatible to the stuff that's on the other side of Teal Club from there. I am not an advocate of that at all. I prefer the other option that has been alluded to, where they would just expand the residential into there, de-densify the residential a little bit, maybe more opportunities for some more green space. So no on that. Yes on traffic circles. Down with the San Francisco Giants. Go Dodgers.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Kristen? And then Mr. Andrus, you'll follow
Kirsten
Kristen.
Meeker. My grandparents, Lou and Marie Hakey, built their home in 1955 at the corner of Little Farms Road and Ventura Road. You may recognize the name. He was a former Parks and Rec Commissioner and Oxnard Citizen of the Year. His picture's in the library. So I came to comment about item D, which is to annex the property south of Teal Club and to change the zoning to light and manufacturing. Right now, those are residential, and that's our residential neighborhood that my grandparents built their house in 1955, and I feel like this is going to change the character of our neighborhood, and I don't agree that it should just be changed in the usage. And I'm not even sure why. Is it because they've given up the business park on the Teal Club specific side? So now they want to change, the existing neighborhood? I'm not sure why this measure is in here. So I kind of question that. And then when somebody put up another drawing of the traffic flow, it reminded me again that as you go southbound on Ventura Road, when you get to Teal Club, there's a big offset. So if you're going to widen and make more lanes there for the bus stop or whatever in the middle of the plan, as you come down to that corner, it's going to just head right into the property on Teal Club. We've already have like an accident at least twice a year. We have, cars come onto the property. I kind of caution that, these things where the road goes this way and then offsets this way are going to create a problem. So that might be a little bit of an issue to look at the traffic flow south of that. So that's just my comment about the changing usage of the existing neighborhood is not really compatible with the existing property owners there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Andrus, followed by Abel Serrato.
Hey everyone, Eric Andrus. I'm the owner of the Henry Levy House. I had to laugh when you asked about when this project would be done. Let's hope the developers contractors take the Measure F class. Thank you, Aaron. Or they'll be waiting 500 days for a permit like I've had to wait for my house. I've heard the city is trying to stonewall Measure F, so all the area contractors should sign up and take the class as soon as possible. I know Alex likes to pretend to be a know-it-all prophet. I think it's idiotic to say that not to worry about traffic. It's easy to say that if you don't live in an area on a street that has very little traffic. My elderly neighbors have come to Mayor and told them that we sometimes sit at the corner of G and 2nd and we have to wait 5, 6, 7 minutes to get out to make a left turn onto 2nd Street. Second Street is so loaded with traffic now. We've had a meeting with the mayor. We've asked too, like the previous commenter, for traffic circles to be put in to stop all the traffic, to stop the speeders going down that street. It's so dangerous, especially for our elderly neighbors and people who are walking their pets, pushing babies through the streets. It's terrible. So to say not to worry about traffic is just idiotic. I called in, I watched the town hall meeting on this, and I called in to talk about the Second Street traffic, and they told me that it's in the EIR. So I pull up the EIR and search for the word Second Street, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know that maybe I just couldn't find it. Maybe I'm dumb. But I couldn't find anything where they've done any kind of measuring of the traffic that's going to come through Second Street. Teal Club turns into Second Street. It's going to be a major thoroughfare for people to get down Second Street, past City Hall, to get to Oxnard Boulevard, to then go out to the freeway. It's going to be a major thoroughfare. It's already packed with traffic. What they're going to also do then is they're going to take little side streets to bypass that traffic. They're going to start going through our neighborhoods. They're going to go through the historic district. They're going to turn down C Street. They're going to go through all these little, and the traffic's going to get worse in our neighborhoods because of they're going to try to avoid the traffic on 2nd Street and Oxnard Boulevard. 990 units is at least 990 cars that are going to be coming through our areas. I have neighbors that have 5 cars. So imagine if people have more than 1, 2, 3, 4 cars at their homes. And then, you know, they won't tell us who this special grocer is that's going to come in, but the rumor is that it's going to be Trader Joe's. That's a very popular thing. It's talked about on Nextdoor all the time. People are loving that Trader Joe's could come down there. Imagine the more traffic of the people that are going to be coming the other way into that area to now shop at Trader Joe's. So the traffic is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Thank you. I had more to say, but that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Andrus. Abel, good evening.
I just had a question for the developers. They already have plans for phase 2, but they don't own any of the properties. How are they gonna develop if, say, KB Homes purchase those land? Is the proposed development still in place, the specific? What if KB Home wants to build apartments? Is that something that it's somewhere written that they can only build whatever it's already planned without even owning half of the phase 2, or actually not owning none of the phase 2? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, if we can move over to the virtual speakers, we'll start with caller ending in 1275. If you can press *6 to unmute, and you have 3 minutes starting now. Caller ending in 1275, please press *6 to start.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. On slide 13 of the presentation is, the claim that the city will form at least one community facilities district, quote, at the request of the developer, end quote. And that same claim is in section 7 of the development agreement, but it doesn't take a mind reader to know, and I think it was confirmed earlier that no, it's not at the request of the developer. City requires it by policy, or else the project wouldn't be allowed to go forward. So this request is under duress, I think. But it gets much worse than that, as Aaron has hinted at already. So there was a time in this country when some people used restrictive covenants to try to keep homes from ever being sold to Black people. And so it took too long. Thankfully, those shameful covenants have been declared unenforceable by the courts, and you can't use restrictive covenants to violate people's constitutional rights. But Section 7G of this development agreement requires the developer to record a restrictive covenant that purports to take away state constitutional rights to vote to eliminate taxes. And if somehow the CFD is eliminated, this would just shift to the tax over to the HOA without voter consent. I doubt that's going to work, and it may only be a matter of time until a court finds this unenforceable too. I don't understand how this is portrayed as an environmental mitigation fee, but whatever the state legislature has required for EIRs and mitigation, I don't understand the city's belief that it somehow supersedes the state constitution. CFDs are one of the reasons that new housing is unaffordable. Even if this were a valid approach to a CFD, the city has a long track record of misspending money from special district funds. And that argues that you ought not to create yet another special district. It's been a nonstop game of whack-a-mole, basically, to stop improper use of special district funds. And actually, speaking of that, you know, special district staff has had over a year to do what was promised and review tree trimming and equipment purchase invoices charged to LMDs and to refund the improper charges. That this ought to be only a 1 or 2 day task, and I don't see a good reason why it hasn't been done yet. So I'll say I can think of several members of the public who would volunteer to help with that project. As I wrap up, I'll just leave a question. I'd like to ask whether the city has any other CFDs with this type of restrictive covenant in the developer agreement.
Thank you. Also, I just noticed we're approaching 10 o'clock. I'd like to see if I can make a motion for us to extend past 10 p.m. Thank you. We got Councilmember Perrello second. I made the motion, second by Councilmember Perrello. That's okay. Thank you for your enthusiasm. We'll stay past 10 o'clock. Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Basua? Yes. Councilmember Perrello?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bettis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Teran?
Yes.
And Mayor MacArthur.
I'm sorry, I was looking at your name here in my notes and answered in your place. Yes, I was saying, thank you.
And the motion to extend past 10 carries. Thank you. 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go to the next virtual caller.
Thank you. Caller ending in 4018, if you can press *6 to unmute, and you have 3 minutes starting now. So caller and ending in...
Good evening. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is going to be a traffic nightmare. And with all due respect to Councilman Starr, with Seabridge, this is not Seabridge. We've already got a bottleneck at Gonzales and Patterson because of the high school. If they're not going to add lanes on Doris or Teal Club, this is going to be a nightmare for those of us that live in Cabrillo. Now, I'd like to address the issue of lead. They said they couldn't find anything that suggests that this would be unsafe so close to the airport. Well, they didn't look very far. The County of Santa Clara had findings on a county commission airborne lead study that was published by the National Academy of Sciences regarding their airport, which is very similar to Oxnard, with very similar older planes lead. As far as the Eagle study is concerned, they're gutting the federal government. And that 2030 is a ridiculous. It's not going to be mandated that they put the non-leaded fuel in those planes. It's just not going to happen. Now, the county commission study from Santa Clara County on lead exposure risk for children found that leaded aviation fuel from airport operations contribute to significantly increased blood lead levels with those within a half mile of the Reed Hillview Airport. For context, the lead levels during peak hours were double the levels seen during the height of the Flint water crisis in Michigan. So this is something that this should stop right now. This should not move forward. You are putting at risk children in danger with the lead from the planes. Now they test the lead, they test the air 7 miles away, but they don't test for lead. The lead comes out of those planes, it gets in the air, and it goes to the ground. Now, unless I missed something here, there hasn't been any study of the lead levels. Now, you guys are proposing to remove soil, but we need testing of the lead, and it's going to affect our children and the children of those new homeowners and those that visit the area of that development. And it's just something that has to happen first. You're going to look back on it. You're going to have kids with behavioral problems and developmental disabilities, and you cannot turn that back. The evidence is there that it took many, many years to get the lead out of vehicles and cars. It's going to take decades to get the lead out of these planes. It's optional. It's voluntary. So you talk about health and safety. This is major health and safety. As far as the Mello-Roos, to put a 50-year moratorium, that is unconstitutional.
Thank you.
And you better
Thank you, Mr.
rethink
Portello.
that.
We're out of
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we'll move to the next caller, caller ending in 6377. Mr. Herrera, you have 3 minutes starting now. Please press star 6 to unmute.
And Mayor, while the caller unmutes, after we're done with the public testimony portion, if there are any further commenters, just want to throw that out there. I'm wondering if we could entertain a recess after the comments. Public comments
Mr.
are over.
Herrera will be right with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Herrera, you can start now. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Manuel Herrera, Citizens for Better Oxnard. Although I appreciate that ongoing development is inevitable and necessary for every city, I want to remind our council, the decision makers, to please not forget the original caretakers of this land when it comes to new development. Obviously, I'm referring to the Shumash. Although Oxnard is the largest city in the county, not one single street or neighborhood is named in honor of the Shumash. Fortunately, we were able to rename Oxnard Beach Park to Olokoi Beach Park to honor the Shumash. And although that was long overdue and greatly appreciated, I'm hoping it doesn't stop there. What I would like to ask the council is there a way to implement some kind of provision or condition that requires this current developer and any future developers to somehow honor the Shumash, either with the naming of their streets or some of the streets or their park, et cetera, et cetera. I know there's other cities that have that requirement, and I was hoping that Oxnard would do the same. For the record, I made this very recommendation to the developer of the Teal Club project at the recent public forum, and he said he had no problems with it, but he said to bring it up at today's council meeting. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm hoping the council can discuss my recommendation and therefore make sure that the Shumash are always honored and therefore never forgotten. And then just really quickly, on another note, Mr. Mayor, can you in the future alternate between the callers, the speakers that are in the live audience and those that are online? Because normally you normally go through all the callers in the audience and then you get to us. And we've been waiting just as long as them. So maybe as a suggestion, you can alternate between those in person and those online. And another last recommendation is because of some of the long-winded council members, you know who you are, tonight's meeting might end up ending at 3 a.m. So maybe, Mr. Mayor, you could put a time limit on some of the council members. Again, those are suggestions. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Herrera, for calling in. We'll go to the next caller.
Mayor and council members, that actually concludes our speakers in person and virtually. We don't have any additional speakers.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I did kind of give a quick warning before the last speaker that if there were any members of the public who wished to speak, it was an additional call, but I would like to request if you wouldn't call just one last time for members of the speaker. Just it's a big item and an important one for us to consider, so I just want to do that. And then if not, I would like to ask if we could do a recess just for a few minutes as the council.
Thank you, absolutely. Is there any members of the public before I close the testimony portion of this public hearing and we recess for, what, 10 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes? Just wishful thinking, yeah. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Yes, I apologize for approaching, but
okay.
if we're closing the public hearing and you have any further questions prior to the close, I'd be happy to do that after the break if you want to do that.
Absolutely,
Or
thank you.
response to some comments that were made earlier that
Yeah.
might bear some input.
All right. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your graciousness. I want to stay around. So we'll close the hearing is now closed. We'll resume in 5 minutes. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Diego. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around and for joining us. We've closed the public hearing portion of this item, given that there were no additional speakers. And we will now move to council deliberations on this item. I'll open up if any member of council wishes to speak at this time.
Yeah. I would like
Yes,
to
I'm
speak.
sorry. Go ahead,
Thank you, Mayor,
Councilwoman.
for the recognition. I just wanted to highlight what was mentioned in the public comments. If I'd like to make that recommendation that the council consider adding a street name in recognition of our Chumash community here in Oxnard. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. The development team had offered to do some responses based on the public comments after we came back from the break. If council, without objection, would be okay with that, I'd like to bring him back up for that.
Sure. So the applicant is here to, should anyone have any questions or anything he needs to clarify?
Maybe you can clarify first, and then we can ask questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members. Probably just a couple of things I might mention. First of all, the well transfer that was being discussed tonight. I can tell you from personal experience that at Springville and Camarillo, after the Fox Canyon moratorium on transfers was canceled several years ago, that the city of Camarillo did transfer all of the groundwater rights from our Springville project to the city of Camarillo. So it is actively being done now. I can confirm that from personal experience. So the GMA transfers do occur. And you are right that new construction with the drought tolerant requirements both for landscape and interiors, that residential does use less water than farming in Ventura County, particularly the historical amount of water that's in your groundwater rights, which is, as staff said, based on an earlier era when people were growing multiple crops year-round. You notice now people are farming a little less because of the groundwater requirements. But historically, you would see a cycle of a short season crop plus strawberries, right? So you would see groundwater use that would be up to 5 acre-feet per acre per year. And to give you an idea, an apartment or a condo with current water use, we've verified this, uses less than about 0.15 acre-feet of water per year. Even a single family home with a lawn uses you get about 5 houses per acre foot. Now, if you've listened to the radio for years, they'd say, oh, a home uses an acre-foot of water. That is not true with modern plumbing and the size of yards people have. So that's just the well part. Roundabouts, you know, if that's something that we could look at from a traffic safety point of view during the tentative track map stage, we're open to working through that. We use them some places, they work well. Some places, if too many people have bad habits, it's really hard to teach people to drive in roundabouts, but it could be considered, so we have no issue with that. As was stated about street naming and, you know, other kind of naming, we're open to whatever the city wants to do on street naming policy. The transition of Ventura Road south of Teal Club Road that was raised by the property owner, that will be addressed in the tentative track map as well. That's a detail of design that gets picked up during that process to make sure it works. And lastly, I'm going to give you my observation on soil, because it's been an ongoing comment from the community. Almost all of us live on farmland, if we live in Oxnard, Camarillo, or Ventura. Almost all of us do. And the standards that are now in place with the state for analyzing soil are very stringent. And you have to go through a process that either the County Environmental Health Department or the State Department of Toxic Substance Control oversees, and you have to get their approval for how you remediate any pollutants that are in your soil. There are very specific factors that you have to address. The EIR, I believe, has a phase 1 toxic report in it. Phase 1 deals with known spills and known events. But I can give you this information from my own observation, that typically what happens is toxaphene is what's found in the soil now, less severe than DDT, which was mentioned by somebody. Toxaphene is like an old legacy chemical that appears typically in the first 2 or 3 feet of just what's been tilled over and over. It doesn't tend to sink. But before you do construction, you have to do a phase 2 environmental site assessment, and that's where they do borings all over the site, and they log samples and take those, and it tells you, do you have to process in this soil and aerate it and bury it deeper, or do you have to haul some of it off? So I hope that answers the question regarding that. And on a very specific case, because I tracked it closely after the Oxnard School District acquired by threat of eminent domain a portion of the Borchard site, the school district did their own environmental impact report. They also processed with a phase 2 assessment to get approval from the state education department for that school site. They did a phase 2 and they did not identify anything like lead at any levels that were of concern. They did have a couple of spots where toxaphene was found, and they have to remediate that, but they did not find DDT as well. So that's the only things that I can offer any insight to, just based on personal knowledge. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Good, Mr. Perlow.
Just, thank you very much for coming up. Just I made the comment about DDT. It's the breakdown formations of DDT that they're finding. They're not using it now, but the breakdowns hang for decades. It is being found in areas. I don't know about that site, but I know it is being found. I'll give you the Rio School District, Oxnard High School District, 2 examples. With respect to the young lady and the gentleman that asked about the property south of Teal Club Road, there has been no real staff input on what's going down with that. Can you enlighten, or can staff address something like that?
I'm sure
I know this is deliberation,
Yeah.
but I feel that they were shortchanged, and you can blame me, I didn't ask the questions, but they need to have some concept of what's going on with that.
I think staff can clarify this, I'm sure, but I'll give you my understanding of it. The specific plan is the box that we're talking about, that we're making the application on.
Correct.
And what goes with that is, because there would be a county island left behind if they annexed all of the Teal Club specific plan property, there'd be a little pocket in the middle that was county, because everything to the west on the south side of Teal Club is already in the city, and and other properties to the east are as well. That the decision to add that to the EIR was so that the annexation could include all of it, because you have to have a certified EIR when you go for annexation to LAFCO. LAFCO won't even consider this project until we show them the certified EIR. So I believe that's why, and I guess what's left behind are existing non-conforming uses that will be allowed as long as those people keep that use, is my understanding. I'll leave the rest to staff.
Maybe staff can address this. If there are sites in there that are on septic tank, is it automatic and they're hooked up to the sewer when the sewer is going to this area? And provide them with potable water from the city of Oxnard?
Councilmember Perello, there would not be a trigger just from the annexation and the installation of potentially city utilities in front of these properties. They could continue their use. They could continue, my understanding is, continue to use their current water supply, which I assume is well water, and septic systems. Now, if they wanted to develop or expand their use or change their use, that would be a different question. The septic tanks, we would refer to County Environmental Health for guidance on that. If there was a septic system failure, could it be repaired? Or do they have to connect to the city system if there was a failure in the future? That's something we'd look to County Environmental Health for guidance and work with that property owner. As part of the later infrastructure reviews that would come through the city, we will be keeping those property owners in mind in their properties. So if it's feasible, we would propose the developer design in sewer stub outs if there is a sewer line going in front of those properties. so that those property owners don't have to connect by digging up the brand-new roadway, for example. So we'll keep that in mind, but there's no trigger for them to discontinue their current legal non-conforming uses or to connect at any point in time if they don't change those uses or have a septic system failure.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I hope the people heard that asked the questions. With respect to the properties on the south side of Teal Club Road, the zones will change. Is their property assessment going to change, and will that trigger a property tax increase? Increase the value of their property to now potentially increase?
I can't speculate
And I would
on-
think that well, I know why I'm asking. If they possibly are not support, this could be detrimental to them in their mind. I understand why the city is doing this. I understand the concept of the island. But if somebody could address that before we leave, it'd be nice.
Through the chair, if I'm happy to address that. Unless the property is conveyed to a third party at a higher price, or unless they tear down the structure and build a new one, their property will not be reassessed. It will go through the standard 2% increase per year in assessed value, as every other property does, assuming there is no other kind of economic downturn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rizzo. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If I could add on to that as well on the street, just a further clarification. There will be no right-of-way take from those existing properties on the south side of Teal Club Road. All of the improvements, sorry for the visual aids, but all of the improvements will come out of the Phase 1 property. There'll be a new, in the street section, it shows there'll be a new curb put in, and in all likelihood sidewalk in front of their homes and driveway aprons poured in. So at the time you do all those improvements, I agree with staff that sewer laterals are customarily put in behind the curb so nobody has to tear the street up again.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I just have one question. It's specifically around the effort for green energy, and I appreciate that aspect of the development project. And I'm mostly thinking about the city and the availability of charging stations throughout the community. And curious if you can share more about the effort around electric car charging stations in that area.
I'll give you my understanding because I'm in the process of doing permitting for both a residential and a commercial project at this point. There are Title 24 requirements for a certain percentage of EV chargers to be put in any commercial project now. And you have to have, even beyond that, you have to have pre-wiring for future ones to be added if the state goes to a higher standard for that. So that takes care of that side. My understanding is also that under Title 24, that homes have to be pre-wired to allow now for individuals to put in chargers in their garages. So that's how that's being addressed.
Thank you.
I just want to make a quick comment. Just want to express my gratitude to all the speakers, staff, and certainly you, sir, as the applicant for your commitment to staying and addressing each of the points that's being discussed here and writing those down. Also want to address Mr. Herrera, who called in, suggested the possibility of limiting the council's questions. I just want to state that on an issue such as this, with this magnitude and significance, I think every question must be considered to ensure a well-informed policymaker by us. Also just want to recognize the city manager. I think you want to make a statement or a comment as well.
Yes. As you lead up to hopefully taking a vote, I also am glad that you're not limiting council time on this, a project of this scale and significance. So I want to make a broad comment about the state's housing crisis, and then I actually would like to highlight a very specific item on this project. So part of what, first of all, I really appreciate the quality of this public hearing and the civility of it. But it's just really important to point out some of the things we did here tonight really reflects why there is a true housing crisis in this state. it's all too human and too often for those of us who already live somewhere to not want more people to come for various reasons. The director of the state's Housing and Community Development Agency, HCD, Gustavo Velasquez, was actually in the region last year in Camarillo, giving a speech about the need for housing in California, and he just hit the nail on the head by discussing across California the issue is NIMBYism across the state, and that's why we have such a housing crisis. So it's not unusual to hear all kinds of things about traffic is going to be a nightmare. In this case, the lead fuel in the air. These are all different reasons for just no more housing near me. I want to approach the lead air thing because I find that odd that that's being raised to prevent a new large development versus if that's a legitimate concern, what about all the people that live there now? What about all the kids that go to those schools now? So if that's a concern, then that should be addressed with the airport now. That should not be a concern about a future development. So I think, again, but it does illustrate why we have a housing crisis across the state. Because neighborhoods will find all kinds of reasons not to have another neighborhood near them. But if you look on the map behind me, there are a lot of neighborhoods that are here today that weren't there before. And I'm sure there were similar complaints back then. So enough on the broad policy. I need to highlight one thing about this project that makes it, in my mind, rather unique. Several years ago, I did meet with Dennis and his partners when he was telling me they were ready to crank this up and get it across the finish line for their part of it. And we haven't actually met since then until tonight. So we had a very good discussion about various things. The one thing I asked of them that to me is very important, and I'm so appreciative and grateful that not only did they remember it, but they're honoring it by way of honoring our community, and that is this one element that is unique, which is our residents are going to get the first shot at these properties. That is not something we can require. No local government can require that. The state cannot require that. And that is nothing that real estate people want to have to deal with. That is nothing that they ever had to do. But they're doing it for this project. And in essence, it doesn't give Oxnard residents a special deal. It just allows them, when this thing comes online, to be first in line. So our residents, our families will still have to qualify for all of it. But that does make this project unique. And I'm just very thankful that they remembered that one request. And the Chumash naming for the streets, I think that's really cool. And I hope there's a Chumash translation for Idiot City Manager Boulevard. That'd be very cool. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get to my comments, just one last thing that stuck with me. We've already touched on other questions I had. If either the city attorney's office, preferably, or city manager's office could speak to comments that were made regarding the potential for the CFD and then there being a restriction on the voting for the rescinding of that for a period of time. Wondering if we could speak to that briefly, but also are there any other jurisdictions that have used a similar mechanism in establishing a CFD for a specified period of time, several decades, when a neighborhood came online or development came online?
So first, was starting, one of the questions was, are there, I believe it was by Ms. Purcell, who asked if there are any other developments in the city that had this restriction? The answer is yes. We put this restriction on the Sakiaka Farms project. basically saying that for a period of time, they could not revoke the requirement that they pay a specific amount for fire services. So this is something we have imposed before. It has not been challenged yet. So that is something which is done. I can't indicate another jurisdiction in California that has this particular provision. Cities, though, throughout California have to become more creative. After Prop 218 passed and subsequent legislation, it really took away the foundations of how projects were entitled, because there was the assumption that if you allowed this new development to come in, that that development would pay for the cost it took to provide services to it. So this is a tough and challenging issue which cities are dealing with the funding sources to pay to provide the services that their residents demand. So challenging times require creative solutions. This is one way that we believe meets the requirements. Clearly, Mr. Starr and Ms. Purcell have a different viewpoint, and I respect their position. I disagree with it. But this is something that provides the best level of security to the city to ensure that this development will pay for its costs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rizzo.
Out of curiosity, on the Sakioka Farms project, I don't think there's any registered voters at all there that could even do a repeal of that. I mean, it's all commercial, right?
Well, it is industrial, so there are uses, but actually, if it does not have voters, then the property owners have the ability to do that. But that provision was added because this was in lieu of building a fire station. They needed to pay a certain cost, so there was staffing in a nearby fire station.
So just so I'm clear, I mean, I understand the Prop 218 process, at least when it comes to registered voters being able to eliminate their CFD. Are you saying that there's a process that involves other than registered voters to eliminate a CFD? Because that's what I heard you say.
Well, as you know, most new developments are uninhabited at the time a CFD is.
No, I'm asking a different question.
Well, no,
sorry.
but I'm going to get to the answer. So just like that this project is going to be undeveloped, Sakioka was also undeveloped and no one lived there, but they were property owners who voted for the formation. So the general rule is that you can, if it's adopted in one manner, it can be revoked in the same manner, unless there's some other restrictions on that. In this case, our extra twist is that this is a CEQA mitigation. So that provides an extra protection that this is a mitigation measure which should not be repealed.
Okay. May I have the floor back, Mayor?
Absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. So looking at this, the broader picture of this item, this is not the first time that's come to the council, the city council of the city of Oxnard. I look back on the number of iterations, and the first time it came in my tenure was in 2021, and it predated me quite a bit, and I'm sure that those who are still here, Councilmember Perello and Councilwoman Basua, have had it come a number of times, and then prior to their tenure as well. And this is just dating back a long time, and I appreciate all the work that's been put into it. And the applicant, the development team, was fairly straightforward in their desire to serve the community in something that's been a long time coming and had a number of iterations in that time. And I appreciate all of the information that came from the staff and the developer and the questions that were brought up by the public, and both parties' willingness to entertain and address those questions. And with that, it really comes down to this for me. If we have mitigations that have been identified and we have questions that remain about things like air quality or traffic, those are things that will not be answered or solved tonight. There are things that will continue to be monitored. There are things that will evaluate as time goes on. As Mr. Hardgrave mentioned, the school district did go beyond in a second phase study and did not find lead. Hopefully that's promising. And the city manager actually must have read my notes during the break, because There are a number of neighborhoods that surround that airport. One of them is the neighborhood I live in. One of them is the neighborhood Mr. Andrus lives in. One is the neighborhood that Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Partello live in. All of those have existed for decades. The Wilson neighborhood, longer than my neighborhood. My neighborhood was built just after World War II. The rest of it built in the 70s. And the Cabrillo neighborhood built in the 80s. And decades and decades of folks living there. And if we were going to see issues from elevated levels of lead in the air, the airport certainly has been there and has outlived a high school that was there. And there are a number of generations of families who have lived in those homes. And I would imagine that if we were going to see something, that might be something that have come up already. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an air quality specialist, but I can look at that and know this isn't a new development and the first ever development near this airport. And so that's just what comes to mind for me, because the alternative is we either put this on hold or we don't do it. And where do we get an additional 990 units elsewhere in the city to make up for that in meeting our housing needs and getting towards those goals and the obligations we have as a city and as a council in getting there. So I'm not saying, hey, we have to do this because we have to do it, because yes, we do have to do it, and it's the right thing to do. And there's the added layer that genuine effort has been put forward by the city and by the development team to get this to a place that's going to serve the community well. The big thing, as the city manager mentioned as well, Oxnard residents getting, by the efforts of the developer, a first crack at this. And this has always been one of my issues. I would love to address our housing crisis every chance we get in a way that makes sense, but I also realize that we don't have a wall built around the city of Oxnard, and folks who live in areas where it is much more costly to own homes can come here and purchase homes. That's their right to do. Yet it still doesn't, it only exacerbates and doesn't address directly the housing crisis we have now of today's Oxnard residents and the Oxnard residents who will live here as this development comes online if it's approved. My last things here, I also support if we can look at further study on the street naming, possibly the park name. And maybe I'm going too big here, but if it's, would it be the Teal Club neighborhood? Is that already identified in our general plan, or can the name of the neighborhood could be a Chumash word as well? But I may be going too far there at this point in time, but I'm just throwing that out there. I know we'll have at least a park there. We'll have street names, but I would love to have that looked into further, and I appreciate that being brought up. And lastly, I'm a big converted fan of roundabouts as well and what they can do to particular developments. And I recognize what has been shared in River Park about concerns about roundabouts or traffic circles, but I've seen how they operate versus a four-way stop as well. So from an engineering standpoint, if the developer is open to that, and when we come to the tentative map phase, if that can be something that's looked at and they're open to that, I'm a big fan, because Mr. Fernandez said it himself that Doris Avenue can be a drag strip. And I throw out there that on October 26, 1985, there was a major collision there between a 4x4 Toyota pickup and a Rolls Royce on Doris Avenue. And I'm looking out in the audience. Our public works director gets the reference. That's a Back to the Future reference. So they filmed that on Doris Avenue for those who don't know. So anyhow, I appreciate all the information that came forward. And this has been a long time coming. I feel fortunate and privileged to have the opportunity to sit and listen and make a decision on this for our community. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. If I can just take the floor for a second too, I just want to say that after thoroughly reviewing the staff report, and thank you for that. I know there was a lot of work put into it, and the engaging, constructive, deep conversations I had with the applicant, and the attention you gave me to listen, and for your willingness to invest in our city. So thank you for that. I just want to express my strong support for the proposed option number 1, which aims to enhance the housing needs of our community while also providing meaningful support to our business sector. This plan presents innovative solutions to our most pressing challenges and emphasizes an equitable approach. Furthermore, it promotes transparency, empowering renters and buyers alike to make well-informed decisions. I appreciate also the commentary here and the applicant's willingness to address those questions. And just the good dialogue back and forth among all of us here. And I want to take Mr. Fernandez's suggestions and also that stated by Mayor Pro Tem about the roundabouts. I'm big on the aesthetics of our city, the public safety of pedestrians, cyclists, and our commuters. So if we can incorporate what Mr. Fernandez mentioned about looking into more roundabouts, and also if there's room for more green space, as well as I think Mr. Herrera's point is well taken. I'm certainly in support of naming our streets in that development in honor of our Chumash heritage here in our city and those that occupy this space. So I'm in favor, and those are my thoughts. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Starr.
Thanks. So I think, to be fair, I know the city manager says that NIMBYism is what's driving off people, but I actually do believe there are people that are opposed to a project that can be sincerely against it for whatever reason, not just because they don't want houses. I think Mr. Stein is sincere when he's concerned about, lead in the air. I don't think he's there to say, let's not have housing. But and while he has that concern, I can understand the concern about the lead in the air, but I don't know what to found that on, because we don't do any testing of the air, and I'm not aware of any other airports where it's been required to have that testing done. So, I don't want to say. I'm not trying to discount your position. I'm just simply saying that I can't say that having no facts is a reason to not do something. I don't think life can work that way. I think you often make decisions with less than 100% of the facts available. I think I do have a question for the applicant about the park. You've done other developments. Have you ever had a situation where you were able to build a park, not have to have the excessive costs of it being a public conveyance, and then somehow able to deed it over to the agency? Is that something you have any experience with?
Presently at Springville, I'll just give you the most recent example.
Okay.
There is a 5-acre neighborhood park being constructed now by the developer Lennar, and they are doing it with contractors that they're using elsewhere on the project, and that will then be dedicated in that case to the Pleasant Valley Park and Recreation District, because they don't have a unified city-owned park district. But it is, to the best of my knowledge, being done just by normal contracting processes.
So no prevailing wage requirements. So
that's my understanding, but it may be different.
Maybe it is different.
As a charter city versus a,
Yeah, we're a general law city, but maybe it's just they have a different park agency, and that makes the difference. But I guess my question for staff would be, if there is a way to do this, the Public Works Director is saying that, no, it violates this particular code, but if there can be any research that's done where this is an option, I'd like to figure out a way to save you money on this, because I don't like to blow money that I don't have to. If staff can at least look at that option and see if you've been able to do it elsewhere, why can't we do that here? I think it's a fair question to ask. So as far as my other comments, I guess I like the project overall. I think it's worthy of support. I am concerned about Doris Street and the traffic there. I don't know what can be done to calm the traffic more so that it doesn't become the problem that some people foresee it's going to be. So I really hope that whenever the track map is developed, that we can figure out ways to address that concern, which, I assume is well-founded. The one part that I just really, really can't get past right now, and I'd vote for everything else right now, The one thing I just cannot get past is the idea of using a deed restriction to bargain away the constitutional rights of the public. I mean, I would never imagine us having a restriction that says, well, you know what? You agree that you're only going to vote for the incumbents for now on. That's going to be part of the deal. We realize it's a constitutional right that you get to vote for whoever you want, but in this case, we're going to put in this provision because we can. I don't think this has merit. I think that I'll be really candid with you. I've never really thought that the process that we have for today to create a Melrose tax district is in keeping with our Constitution. I realize we have a statute that allows the landowners to make a vote. But the way Prop 218 is written, it says that it's the electorate that decides. And the electorate, those are natural human beings, registered voters. They're not property owners. And I think that someday, don't know who, don't know where, someday someone's going to challenge that. Because I don't think that we can actually do what we've been doing, even though many have done it. I think that if push came to shove, and I looked, there's no published case on this at all. But I think someday that should be challenged. And, you know, we've seen that voters are willing to vote for their taxes. We did that at River Park just recently. We got well over 2/3 vote. We're willing to do it that way. But apparently, we're not willing to do that here. We're going to just basically impose it on people and tell them they can't have a way to undo it. That troubles me. It troubles me a lot. So I guess if I would say that at least where I'm leaning, I'd be leaning to support the project, but I want to take out of that development agreement that whole Section 7 that just deals with creating the community facilities district. I think that if you want a community facilities district, go to the voters afterwards, after the neighborhood's been formed. I'm sure you'll tell me, but no one would ever vote for that because who wants to pay for police and fire that they're getting already anyway? But that's kind of my point. My point is that people given an option probably wouldn't want to vote for that because everyone else gets it at no extra cost. We've seen in River Park that they get fire protection now at no extra cost. And we said that that's okay. We're going to do that. This council, or the previous council, said we're going to take away the charge for fire protection because it's not fair to the residents. That's what was said at the time. It wasn't fair to them. And I agree. It wasn't fair. But now we're saying that it is fair in this case. I'm not comfortable with this. So basically what I would do at some point whenever it's appropriate to make the motion. Now I don't expect to win the vote on this, but I can read the room. But I would still make a motion to remove Section 7 from the development agreement having to do with the Melrose taxes. So when that comes, I'll make that motion to amend that, and you can vote for it, hopefully, or you might vote against it. But I think that in the end, without that change, I would probably vote for everything else, but I wouldn't vote for the development agreement. I just can't, deprive people of their constitutional rights through a deed restriction. I just can't.
Mr. Mayor, if I just make one point of clarification, because if we're going to talk about fairness, let's also be accurate. What happened in River Park was after the fact, we made a judgment here that what wasn't fair was that they were paying for the fire station and for the firefighters. So that's the distinction. Here
we're paying for a fire station, or part of a fire station.
This is very different. This is very different.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, and then we'll recognize Mr. Pearl.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Councilwoman. Yeah. Thank you, absolutely. Go ahead.
You can go ahead, because then.
It's just regarding.
Well, I like to, and I'll start this. I like to really listen and really take everything in that my colleagues are saying. And of course, we're not always going to agree on things. I, like Council Mayor Pro Temp said, I'm actually really glad I'm sitting in the seat being able to make this decision for Oxnard. It's a good project. I do have some comments, and I've heard every single speaker. I actually have had the privilege of speaking to Mr. Stein. He knows exactly, how I feel in regards to this project. I'm going to repeat a lot of the things that I've already told you. One is if we really have a concern regarding the environment within this area, this is something that should have came up a while ago, not during this construction project. Because if we have lead in the air, if we have asbestos, if we have whatever it is, we have it now. And if it's affecting our community, then we need to do that. A lot of airports are built around community. LAX is an example. It's literally, it's built literally in the center of LA. We've got, Irvine, we've got tons of airports. Not saying that, these toxics don't exist, because we know they do. But I just think to bring it up now is just not appropriate when we've had this in our community for such a long time. In regards to traffic, the way my mind works and the kind of person and leader I want to be is I want to look towards the future. And I think in many ways, as legislation and rules and regulations come down, we are thinking down the road. We're not thinking now. We're thinking of, what this community is going to look like 10 years down the road. Reality is that we have EV chargers now coming on board. Just like the applicant said, there's regulations that say you have to put in the infrastructure, even if you're not doing it now, the infrastructure has to be there. That is correct for construction. So we are planning for what the future is going to be. We might not be the Jetsons right now, and if you were born in my era, you know what the Jetsons are. Maybe next time when we have a council meeting, I'll put a cartoon up so we know. But my point here is that we need to plan ahead. Sort of like as I'm moving into my retirement mode within the next 10 years, I'm planning on, okay, what do I need to do in order to prepare for that? I'm not thinking now, I'm thinking in the future. And this project, I believe, is doing that. I am really hoping that, we get really creative and we become, the East Coast. You can literally go down all the way from DC all the way to the Boston area in a train. You can go from DC to Philadelphia within 2 hours in a train, 2-3 hours. Transportation in the other side of our country is really good. We need to get to that point. And hopefully, we will get there. But traffic is going to be an issue. It is an issue now, and we all have to deal with it. It's not going anywhere, but hopefully within 5-10 years, we will see some relief in that. But I really like to think, further down the road, and I really think that this is a great project. I'm really excited about the $2 million going to support farm worker housing. That is extremely important to me. Affordability is also important to me. I like the fact that during the public project, we're going to have the wages, we're going to have local hire. That's also important to me. So when the time comes, I will support this along with Councilmember Perez and everybody else in regards to honoring the Chumash heritage. Also, in regards to, and this is going to be my last comment, in regards to Councilmember Starr's about, the Melrose and all that, I'm going to say that the people that are buying these homes, they're being disclosed this information. They don't have to buy if they choose not to buy. Every time I hear that we're taking their constitution right away. To me, it's like a slap in the face. What are we saying, that our people are stupid, that they don't understand what they're signing? To me, they are. If I'm buying a home, I better know what I'm signing. So to me, to say that is, I don't have to buy. Nobody is saying you must buy, you must pay. You have a choice. If you don't want to buy, you don't have to buy. And we just need to leave that up to those buyers. And you know what? This is going to be a great community. We're going to have a great community that is striving, and we're going to have kids laughing. And when the time comes, I'm going to support this along with your recommendations with the Shumash Heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Go ahead, Mr. Perrello, then we'll move to Mayor Pro Tem.
I appreciate this meeting. It's been very civil. I mean, I thought there would be much more fireworks from the audience. I'd like to share some things. I really appreciated the back and forth with our council. We've gotten a lot better since the first time we've come on board, the brand new council. I'll share my personal thing. I've mentioned already the cream of the crop as far as soil in that area. That's hard to swallow. I support this project, but I'll share some things with you. I shared with the council the issue, which we really haven't talked too much about, the RENA. We have to come up with housing. And one of the reasons we have to come up with housing is because what was done about a Jones Ranch. Gave the council that. Hope that they read it. The local hire, the local first shot compliments. But I want to remember, it was my city manager that did that. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. It wasn't the voters. Hopefully some people from Oxnard take advantage of it. As much hell as our city manager gets, he gets very little credit for things like that. And I get accused of kissing his ass when I say things like that. The issue with respect to the voters, having a option to vote on this in the Sakioka. Well, I never thought that I'd be sitting in a seat here. But I remember when I first got drugged to a Rio school board meeting when they were talking about the River Park project. And I remember the property owners that had the vote. I remember the board member, Eva Costa, getting recalled because she wouldn't go along with it. She wanted the people that were buying the house to have the vote. She paid a price, big price. It was a lesson to learn. The RENA numbers and the homes we've got to build, we are between a rock and a hard place. We got to come up with housing. This is one area where we still can do this. I wished it was higher density. I do wish it was higher density. We could kill more birds with one stone. The question that was asked with respect to the autos going through 2nd Street, that's a damn good question, because when I come to the city council meeting, I'm trying to make time. I know how I take, and I know I have to take a shortcut, and I'm going down 2nd Street. And I agree, the gentleman, sometimes the traffic is fast, but it's nothing compared to where the roads that I would normally go. I can't fix that. When my wife and I were looking to buy a home, got married in 90, looked to buy a home late 90s. And it just so happens, and I really appreciate the people that put the staff report together, because they have the story in there about the plane that hit the house on Ivanhoe Drive in Cabrillo neighborhood. We were looking for a house, and we're driving around the neighborhood, and Jesus Christ, there's a thing in the newspaper. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I apologize for that swearing. The plane clipped the chimney on Ivanhoe, and that's in the Cabrillo neighborhood next to Doris. And we're driving around, and it was like, ain't no way buying a house near the airport. Mayor Pro Tem has gotten on the Airport Authority Board and myself. I voted against a project off 5th Street because it was near the airport. The school, Juan Soria, I served on that oversight. In my mind, it wasn't the right place to put a school, but things are done as to the credit of the pastor sitting in the back row. Perfection is impossible. You keep working at it, you keep working at it. But if you wait for it, you won't accomplish anything. And I give that to the Assistant City Manager, Ms. Golden. She's the one that taught me that line. People will have the opportunity to buy a home It's a big thing. Again, Pastor Runyon, home ownership. I'm very fortunate that I'm in the spot that I'm at. Extremely fortunate. I know people that are not. I know people that are in better situations. But if you've never read a poem called Richard Cory, I hope all of you take a shot at it. The issue about naming, and I can't complain about Mr. Herrera asking about the names for the Chumash Indians, but I want to say something. It was brought to my attention sometime in the past. This city does a lot of things, and it was a city manager again. There is an issue that happened in this city at the start of World War II with a Japanese family that was put in an internment camp, and a Mexican-American family protected his store and ran it. And when the gentleman came out of the internment camp, they gave the store back. It's in Tom Brokaw's book, it's been around, and it's been something that if we're gonna start naming things, we got a park in this neighborhood. They could name something, because the way the national government's going, I have a right to vote just like everybody up here. I didn't vote for the person that is the president, but he's my president. I don't like it, but he's my president. This Carmona Takasuki thing, this is an example of something that we need more in this country. And I would request that we look at this very seriously. I'm not asking you to vote on it, I'm asking requests. But if you make a decision to start naming these things all after particular Indian organizations, then I'm making that request. And I won't support it unless I get that. I don't want to play that game. But people will have the opportunity to buy a home here knowing that it is in proximity to an airport. I've already told you, I sat at the Rio School Board meeting when the River Park project was bought, when it was approved. And later in the neighborhood that I bought, South Bank, when we found out about a levee that was not a levee, SCR3, and we found out about the SCR1 protecting the River Park project, there are some big issues that happened, as Councilman Starr, to his credit, is saying later on down the road, you have to look at something. You got to deal with it. There's a lot of things that I deal with up here that I wish to Christ they were not having to be in my lap. Why did somebody do something in the past? I have to sort of trust, and that's hard for me sometimes, that the people that made those decisions in the past did the right thing. But we're dealing with it. I think this will benefit the city. I still know that there are certain concerns that I can't overcome. The fact that planes are flying near these homes, the fact that there's claims about, lead, the fact that the traffic, all of this other stuff. We're between a rock and a hard place because past city councils agreed to the RENA numbers on the Jones project. And people that have forgotten that were not on this council and haven't paid attention, they need to understand that. We are between a rock and a hard place. This is a project that's been on the back burners for a long time. To the credit of the developers, again, first shot to Oxnard home buyers, my hat's off to you. Thank you. But I do support the option one. But if they're going to be pushing that we're going to start naming these streets after certain things, I'm going to push on that park. Because I don't see the backbone on the council to do something like that. And this is an issue that not too long will be dead. And people will be, that was World War II. That's old news. We got people that are born, don't even know about Vietnam War. And I'm not a veteran. But I just think that's important to the city. These are my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Perlow. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. This isn't a comment, but more of a point of clarification from Councilmember Starr. Given the comments that were made about the provision of restricting the ability to rescind the CFD by a vote, you're asking to eliminate the entire recommendation that there be a CFD versus just eliminating that portion. Is that correct?
My first preference is to get rid of it altogether, just because I think it should be the voters that decide that. Certainly as it'd be suboptimal, but at least getting rid of 7G, which has to do with the ability of people to later repeal that tax at least would help. So at least there's the option of removing it in the future. So if you want the Melrose tax district, which I don't support, at the very least get rid of 7G, which is the portion that prohibits future voters from ever getting rid of this. I just don't think it's constitutional.
So I just asked for the clarification on your asking, I heard you say that you want to eliminate the entire Section 7 just regarding the CFD altogether, but it sounds like you're also saying, well, I would be open to just the one portion that I'd vote for the rest of it.
I'm saying it's an option that is not my ideal. I think that I would still be in a position where I'd say, you know what, I won't vote in favor of the development agreement as long as, you know, provision 7 or section 7, whatever it's called, is there. I think only voters, I think, can put in taxes. That's the way I've gone to too many places on the campaign trail where people, one of their big issues was just the amount of taxes they pay. They're suffering. I know that. I mean, you know, it's maybe it's something you can't identify with because, I mean, you're like most people on the council today, we got people that are on the receiving end of taxes. I'm more on the paying side of it. So I get that there's, you know, a proclivity to say, you know, taxes are a great thing if you're in the position where you're on the receiving end. But there's so many people that aren't on the receiving end. They're on the paying end. And they're the ones that are just uncomfortable.
Well,
what does what mean?
That we're on the receiving end of taxes, and you're on the other side.
So there are net tax providers in this world, and there's net tax consumers in this world. And the people that receive all their compensation from taxes, they're net tax consumers. It's everyone else that has to pay those taxes, though, to make it work. And I'm not advocating a world without taxes or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that I don't think you're able to see, or let me put it this way, I don't think you identify as much with the person that pays the tax.
Is the implication that, just looking at myself, that I receive more taxes than I pay? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not, and I think you know what I'm saying. But
I just want to be clear.
Let's just move on. There's no.
Well, I mean, you made the statement. I just want to be clear for everybody.
There's no upside to this part of the conversation.
Okay. Well, getting back to my original question, though, I just want to be clear on if you're going to be voting, because you said I agree with a number of things, and we align on a number of things you said about what's been proposed and what's in front of us. But it sounds like Section 7 about the CFD is one sticking point for you. Well, specifically about your perception of the constitutionality of that one portion of Section 7. So I just want to know if you're going to be voting on principle or what you've stated you view as beneficial to the public for everything else that you talked about.
I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think that I can be very comfortable voting with, there's a number of things we're being asked to vote on tonight, only one of which is the development agreement. And like I said, I don't have a problem if you're going to outvote me. I kind of expect that. But I'm simply saying that I can't give my moral sanction to something that I think is just wrong. It's just unconstitutional. It's not, I don't think you're a bad person for wanting to vote for this or approving it. I'm just simply saying that for my values, that I can't, I disagree fundamentally with imposing a tax on somebody without their permission. I disagree fundamentally with depriving the ability to eliminate a tax that they're bearing. I have a problem with putting anybody into debt without their vote and their permission. These are things that are pretty basic to me, and that's just where I'm coming from. So yeah, I will be voting, without the change, without eliminating 7, I'd be voting against the development agreement. I'll vote for everything else. I'll even vote for the Chumash names if that's what you want.
I appreciate the clarification on that, Councilmember Starr. We're talking 990 units here, and I think Mr. Rozell said it well. I may disagree with a number of the points, but I respect that you were transparent in stating them. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, no problem. Mr. Pearl, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Starr, I live in a community facility district fee. I don't know if you, I know you live in East Village, and I don't know.
You're in a landscape maintenance district, and so am I, yes.
Okay, so we both are, and the rest of the council, I don't believe, live in those things. So I could suppose some people might say I receive less service than everybody else. I don't look at it that way. This is how I look at it. I made a choice not to buy near an airport. I made a choice, along with the friend of Reverend Runyon, not to buy in River Park, and I bought where I did. And I got, shall we say, stuck with the CFD. Okay, but I made that choice. The people that buy these homes, just like I made a choice to run for council, sometimes I look in the mirror and go, what was I thinking? But when it goes forward, I made that choice. When these people, whoever these people are that buy these homes, that's going to be a free choice. That's one of the great things about living in this country. They're going to look at everything that's available, and they're going to make a choice. Maybe their wife or their spouse or their husband's going to tell them, I want that, I don't care. But they're going to make a choice. We do not have a gun to anybody's head to take some sort of a thing where the impression is we're imposing extra money costs on these people that they didn't know what they were getting into.
Good.
And if they didn't know what they were getting into, that's a comment on the educational system and the common sense of human beings.
There's no denying that we are depriving, with this as proposed, there's no denying that we're depriving people of their right to vote in the future to reduce their taxes.
I'm not making that person buy that house.
I'm saying something different. I'm saying that we're depriving people of their right to reduce their taxes in the future. That's what the goal is. Mr. Rozell made that pretty clear. That's what the goal is. And I get it. It's interesting. But I think that as the electorate, if we wanted to reduce our sales tax rate, we could do that. No one's denying that. Wouldn't have a deed restriction keeping people from reducing their sales tax in the future, I hope. So we can reduce our sales tax rate if we wanted to today as an electorate. But we're saying that, but for this particular thing, we're not going to allow them to reduce. I just think it's a violation. I think it's a violation of our Constitution. That's just where I'm coming from. And I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm not saying that everyone else who agrees with me, who disagrees with me is somehow,
wrong. It's a difference of
bad
opinion.
or anything like that. I'm just simply saying that I'm coming from a very different perspective. And I respect the perspective that you have, even though it differs from mine.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Perez, anything?
Go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion to call the question.
But there's a motion on the table, so.
So what I asked for is when we get to the point, I do want to make it a motion to amend, which you can vote down.
Why don't you just make the motion?
Okay, fine. I will make a motion that we adopt staff's recommendation of option number 1 with the exception that section 7 of the development agreement be removed.
Okay.
So that would be my motion. It'd probably be cleaner if I did it this way, where I said, I'll make the motion for option 1, and now I'm going to make an amendment. And that amendment is to delete section 7. So the first thing we do is we debate the amendment. Then you can vote. I'm just saying how I want to do this. So I will make the motion for option 1. Get a second, hopefully, for option 1. I will immediately make a motion to amend that motion so that to eliminate section 7 from the development agreement. We would then have a debate over that amendment.
Once you get a second.
Once I get a second, yeah, I mean, you could deny me a second altogether, and that's fine, in which case I guess I wouldn't be voting for any of this. But at the very least, let me put it this way. At the very least, we're all entitled to have a separate vote on each one of these. I don't want to have a separate vote on each one of these, but I do want to have a separate vote on the development agreement piece of it. That I think is that I can demand. and I think is reasonable.
Okay.
So if you find it easier, we can make a motion first to adopt everything with the exception of the development agreement, get that over with, and then we'll have the motion on a development agreement and what's in there. Would that be an approach that you'd be okay with doing? That we vote first, that we vote first on just everything but?
Is there a motion on the table?
Not yet.
There's no second to that.
I'm asking if you'd be.
Can we get a second?
May I get a second on Councilmember Starr's motion?
Okay, then
So
my motion was that we adopt option one. There's no second to do that?
You made the motion with the exception of.
Well, that's the amendment. So my first motion is that we adopt option one. Is there a second for that?
And Mayor, if I
Yeah, go
can,
ahead.
so thank you for laying out the game plan here. And yes, so the motion is for option one, which any of us can move, any of those options, option one. If that gets a second, Councilmember Starr plans to ask for an amendment, which would also be a second. Am I correct on that? If that doesn't get a second, we could proceed with what was originally moved, which was, he was looking at option one. So with that, I will second his motion to approve option one.
Okay. So,
Go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem.
So this means no Indian names, no park names, no nothing.
just what's
Just
proposed
what's
today right
proposed,
now.
yeah. The other ones were just
I mean,
to explore.
I suppose you can make an amendment later to add that in if you want to.
So, okay, I was just
Yeah.
clarifying. So it's exactly what it says in number one. That's what we're voting on.
Option one is the motion on the table, which has
And
been seconded.
before I move on, Mayor, as the person who just seconded that, staff and city attorney's office, the peripheral discussion we had about street names, park names, roundabouts, is that coming at a later time? Is this just direction or desire of the council? That's not something we would include in this right now, is that correct?
That's not in the motion, period.
Right, at this point in time, what is before you is option one, which is A through F, with the deletion of the language in F about certifying the final EIR.
And at this point in time, it wouldn't be appropriate for those peripheral things, those would come with the tentative map, or should we
Yeah,
give
the
that direction
tentative
now?
map, Mayor Pro Tem, at the tentative map stage, the street naming and all of that would come into play. The street
Makes
naming,
sense.
correct me if I'm wrong, would need to come to council for approval at that point? Yeah, so that would be on the map approval to council, the street naming, and we would, on the final map, yeah. So we would work with the developer to enact that. If council can just give clear direction, it doesn't need to be in a motion or articulated, but we heard the deliberations, we heard the directions, so I think we're good on that.
Okay, and that's sufficient at this point in time?
Yes.
Thank you, okay. So
Mr.
with that-
Begala, just one last thing I just wanted to add and get a chance to add to while we're exploring all of that, is just to have staff and the applicant explore the possibility of implementing app-controlled LED lights to enhance illumination in the park for youth teams. This initiative aligns with our consideration to amend our ordinance in the future to allow for nighttime use of specific park facilities for exercise activities. So I'd just like to see that could be explored and reconsidered for a future time.
Absolutely, we can do that for sure.
Thank you very much. And so I think, if I'm clear, City
So
Attorney,
there's
there's a motion on the table.
There's a motion, there's a second. I guess I can speak to my motion because I'd be the first person to make it.
You want to amend it or substitute it? What do you want?
What I'll do next is, well, first of all, I think you know my position that I like the project and I'd like to see it go forward. At this point, though, I do want to amend the motion to strike out section 7 of the development agreement. I appreciate a second so that we can at least vote on it, and you can vote however you want to vote.
Is there a second? Can we get a motion for a second? I think the item's just going to die.
All right, if there's no second, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, I guess I can demand that we vote separately on the development agreement. So when it comes time to a vote, we'll be voting separately on that.
Actually, if I can jump in here,
Absolutely, Mr. Brazil, thank you.
under Robert's Rules, section 27.5, that is a motion that cannot be divided, and let me read why. A motion cannot be divided unless each part represents a proper question for the assembly to act upon if none of the other parts are adopted. And it would be inappropriate based on other language as it relates to the development agreement and the mitigation of those measures to do it separately. So it's either all or nothing.
Thank you for the clarification.
So 2710 says motions that must be divided on demand. It says sometimes a series of independent resolutions or main motions dealing with different subjects is offered in one motion. In such a case, one or more of the several resolutions must receive separate consideration and vote at the request of a single member, and the motion for division of a question is not used.
I'm actually reading 27.5. It says a motion cannot be divided unless each part represents a proper question for the assembly to act upon if none of the other parts are adopted.
Right, and I just read you 2710.
Okay?
So is it really that offensive to have a separate vote on the developer development agreement?
I'll defer to.
You want to die on that hill? Okay.
I'm not in favor of this.
All right.
Yeah, we can have a discussion, pros and cons versus separating if you want to have that, Councilmember Starr.
I just think if nothing else, as a courtesy, you give me the opportunity to vote separately on a provision, knowing I'm going to lose anyway. I just think it's courteous, but if you don't agree, you don't agree.
I don't agree.
Okay. That's too bad.
So we've got a first and a second on option one. Madam Clerk, if we can get the count.
Clarification.
Good.
Clarification. We're voting on option one as it states, the stuff about street names, the park, your question about the parks, that is for later. I want to hear a city attorney, I want to hear city manager, somebody with the authority that says it's later.
That is something later.
Thank you very much.
Mayor,
You go ahead, Member Tim.
just before we go to the vote, I had the word courtesy in my head earlier. I feel that courtesy's been extended quite a bit this evening. And where it comes to mind for me specifically is when, in violation of Robert's rules, I had the floor and the floor was taken from me, and I was going to call a point of order on that, but I gave the courtesy of, no, let me let this one question go by, and then the second question, but then it was over. So I feel that as colleagues up here, as elected officials, courtesy's been extended, and I'm ready for the vote, but I felt the need to share that, so thank you.
All right, so then let me get formal here. So it's the chair that rules on points of order here. So
did the chair recognize you to have the floor?
I can bring up. I
think he just jumped on the mic, just as I did now.
I can bring up a point of order without having to be.
Mayor, can we move on?
So Mayor, do you believe that, based on what I read, that we can divide this so that we can vote on this part separately?
It sounds like, from what the clarification we got from our city attorney, is that based on 27.5 in Robert's rules, we cannot. I know you cited 27.10. So in respecting the guidance of our city attorney.
Okay. I mean, that's your decision, and I'm fine with that.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we get the vote?
So, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we take the vote, because we have three ordinances that are being introduced by title only, I would like to read the title of the ordinances that you are voting on. An ordinance on item option 1D, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oxnard approving planning and zoning permit number 15-560-01, pre-zoning parcels generally located south of Teal Club Road, north and west of Little Farms Road, and bisected by Mallard Way, APNs 183-0-110-030, -045, -050, -260, -270, -395, -405, and 183-0-100-405, -555, to Light Manufacturing M1, filed by Dennis Hardgrave on behalf of Borchard Property Co-Owners 434 Park Cottage Place, Camarillo, California 93012. Option 1E is an ordinance approving development agreement number A-8565, planning and zoning permit number 670-02, generally located north of Teal Club Road, east of Patterson Road, south of Doris Avenue, and West Ventura Road, APNs 183-070, 183-0-070-060, -070-140, and -240, filed by Dennis Hardgrave on behalf of Orchard property owners, 434 Park Cottage Place, Camarillo, California, 93012. And finally, option 1F is an ordinance approving planning and zoning permit number 15-640-01, specific plan for the Teal Club specific plan, generally located north of Teal Club Road, east of Patterson Road, south of Doris Avenue, and west of Ventura Road, APNs 183-0-070-060, -070, -110, -125, -135, -140, -240, filed by Dennis Hardgrave on behalf of Orchard property co-owners, 434 Park Cottage Place, Camarillo, California, 93012. Thank you for your patience.
This is on the test.
Thank you very much for reading that for us. We'll go to the, now we got some clarity, we'll go to the vote, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Before we go to a vote, our rules, that we have a special rule of order, this allows a voter to actually provide a comment with his vote. Normally, we don't do that under Roberts, but we have special rules that allow us to do that. So when the time comes, I'm going to be asking the city clerk to include my comment as part of that vote, which I'll state when we vote.
Mayor, they also had a rule that if you wanted to provide comments, you needed to put it in writing and give it to the city clerk, not to make her translate it. So just passing that on.
Councilwoman Perez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes, but please note that I object to Section 7 of the development agreement.
Mayor Pro Tem Teran?
Yes, thank you.
Councilwoman Basua? Yes. Councilmember Perallo?
Yes.
And Mayor MacArthur?
Yes,
And the motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank the staff for all the work they did on this project.
The next item of the agenda is item M1. This is from the Housing Department. The subject, loan agreement between the Oxnard Housing Authority and the City of Oxnard. The recommendation is that the City Council, number one, adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute and take all needed actions in consultation with the city attorney relative to entering into a loan agreement with the Oxnard Housing Authority to partially fund the proposed settlement between the Oxnard Housing Authority and UHC 00558, Oxnard LP, regarding the Las Cortes housing project in La Colonia neighborhood and other matters pertaining thereto. And two, authorize a fiscal year 2024-25 budget appropriation in the amount of $800,000 from the general fund. That's account 101, available fund balance. And continuing, that the Board of Commissioners, number one, adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the Housing Director to take all needed actions in consultation with General Counsel relative to entering into a loan agreement with the City of Oxnard to partially fund the proposed settlement between the Oxnard Housing Authority and UHC 0058 Oxnard LP regarding the Las Cortes housing project in the La Colonia neighborhood and other matters pertaining thereto. And number two, authorize an appropriation in the amount of $1,200,000 from the Housing Authority's central fund. And three, authorize the write-off of bad debt associated with the promissory note that was entered into on June 1st, 2020, as amended and restated on January 1st, 2021 for demolition costs. Any members have any questions on staff? Go ahead, Councilmember.
Just so it's clear, and I think I know the answer to this already, but I'd like to ask it anyway. Just what would be the consequence if we were to vote no on this proposal? Just so that I understand what that is.
The consequence would be that we would not have a deal. At this point in time, the Housing Authority has $1.2 million of funding available, and the tentative settlement agreement that we've reached with UHC is for $2 million. So without this, the deal would not be reached, and we'd go into arbitration and risk multiples of that amount if we lost, or we could win. So, but it would kill the deal that we have tentatively negotiated pending the council and board of commissioners approval of what we have before you tonight.
Okay. So my next question would be, why are we structuring this as a loan? It just seems like a deferred gift to me. What's the thinking that goes into this? I mean, we're both related entities. It's not like.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of standard. It's a forgivable loan. If this deal is reached, the Housing Authority would get back the property, and so this area could be developed. So the city has a long history of supporting affordable housing to benefit our residents. So to the extent that this goes forward and the Housing Authority gets the property back and there's a development, that it would be appropriate for the loan to be forgiven as the housing is developed. But that is a standard process of having it as a debt versus a gift at this point in time.
But it would be okay if we did it just as an outright grant and we're done with it, right?
It would not be a gift of public funds. That is correct, but it is the city's standard process.
Okay. So basically, it's kind of academic to ask if the Housing Authority were to default, what would we do? Because obviously we're all kind of related here. I think one just kind of typo at the end. I noticed I think it was on page 1392 of my staff report, that you have the person signing it.
We discovered that
Amelia
error,
Ramirez.
so yeah, that has been updated, so that.
Okay, that's good. I assume we haven't brought him back to sign this.
No, he's not signing the promise. That is correct.
All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions before we move to public comment? Yes, Councilmember Perlow.
Thank you very much. I'm going to run a scenario, and you tell me where I'm wrong, correct me where I'm not. Before any of these council members came up, there was a decision made to enter into an agreement with the developer. The error, mistake, or decision that was made that is causing this was they gave them an agreement in perpetuity, which meant till forever. And we cannot, as the city of Oxnard, get out of that agreement unless we buy our way out or go to court.
Somebody, yes.
Well, that is clearly one take. This would not be an agreement that I would have drafted or recommended that you sign back when it was signed, but that was also during the middle of the Great Recession. So the city and Housing Authority were not in as good a place as they are now, given how bad the economy was. So I think that was a decision that was made before literally anyone in this room were involved on this, or not even with the city. But this is 2020 hindsight, that it was not a great deal. So this is a way to move forward. We could go through arbitration, possible litigation after that, but it is important that this property is available to develop affordable housing for our residents. So time is money, and it's important that we go forward.
And as you've identified for your previous question from Mr. Starr, this could go to court and it could be much more expensive than what this amount is?
The arbitration and or litigation, yes, it could be much more expensive, and this is a way, once again, it could take a substantial period of time. So there is the risk, and then the second, there is the the time that would be lost.
In time, you can get money back, but you can never get the time back. And Mr. Rosell, I'm grateful you work for us. Thank you very much. I appreciate the response. That's my only question, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Pearl. Any other clarifying questions for staff? Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this item before we move to a discussion?
Mayor, we do not have any public comments in person or virtually for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, can I get a motion for this item? Okay.
I'll second it.
We have Councilwoman Basu and a second by Councilmember Perrello.
Okay, this motion will be for City Council. So Councilwoman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Councilmember Starr,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Teran,
Yes.
Councilwoman Basua, Councilmember Perallo,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bettis,
Yes.
and Mayor MacArthur.
Yes.
And the motion carries 7-0 for the City Council. If I can have a motion for the Housing Authority?
I'll make a motion for the Housing Authority.
Thank you. Commissioner Andrade? Commissioner Bettis?
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Vice Chair Teran?
Yes.
Commissioner Basua? Commissioner Perallo?
Yes.
And Chair MacArthur.
Yes.
And the motion carries 8-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. At this time, as we agreed upon, we'll move to item H, and this is the time where a member of this body can make a brief announcement or make a brief report. If we could start with Councilwoman Perez to my left and move on to the right. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor, for the recognition. I'll try to be very quick. I know we've spent some time here. I wanted to thank our Public Works Director and his team for myself and Councilwoman Rodriguez had the opportunity to tour the water facility, and it was just a great opportunity to get an overview of what our water sources are. Highly recommend that tour to any of my colleagues who have not yet been on that tour. I also joined my colleagues on the dais as well at the Cesar Chavez March and really wanted to thank Miguel Rodriguez, Mr. Gomez, and all of our local leaders and organizers that put the event together. If I missed your name and you were one of the leads of that event, just really want to acknowledge all of your work and the work that you continue to do to amplify the voices of our community. I also had the opportunity to attend the Lands Commission meeting on Wednesday, April 12th. Really have had some thorough discussions, both with cause as well as we recently had a meeting with our city manager just this past Monday around really the decommissioning and dismantling of our power plant there. I also had the opportunity to speak at the Renaissance Petroleum site. I was invited to participate in Sea Frog's Toxic Tour to really speak to our state officials, our state agencies, CalGen and the California Department of Conservation. I also had the opportunity to participate in a community focus group with other community leaders in partnership with the Equity in California Ocean and Access Management group in partnership with Real Guppies. I was invited there to just give some insight on beach access management and how to address the barriers within our community. Myself and Mayor Pro Tem were also in attendance at the Building Trades Pre-Apprenticeship Ceremony and really wanted to recognize all of our graduates there, and I'm excited to see just what the future holds with our workforce and increasing more opportunities for our local community members. I wanted to also publicly thank Mike Falcon, a community member that has lived over 20 years within the Southwinds community. He provided me a tour. We drove throughout the community in Southwinds to really look at ways and in areas within the neighborhood to just address within the community. And I look forward to facilitating another tour with myself, Michael Falcon, and as well as the mayor as well. We're looking to get that on the calendar pretty soon so that we can really ensure that opportunities continue to come into South Oxnard. This last Saturday, I joined the chair of Blackstock North and South Neighborhood Council, Chris, who has and his wife as well. Just wanted to kind of acknowledge all of the work that they continue to do for our community. But I met with him there and got to witness a lot of the work that he continues to do. And so really wanted to thank him for continuing to invest in our community. And it was just a great experience to be a part of the bulky item cleanup, and also wanted to just acknowledge our city staff as well, Becca and her team, who were just really great at providing instruction and really providing that smooth process as we were facilitating some of the traffic control in that area. Today, myself and Councilwoman Rodriguez and I got to stop by just for a quick minute, for a quick period of time for the Latina GDP event that happened at Oxnard College, and really, again, wanted to just thank our community leaders for the work that they do there. We do have some upcoming neighborhood council meetings. Redwood will be having their neighborhood council meeting on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m. located at the Evangelical Lutheran Church. The address is 905 Redwood Street. Cal Giesler Neighborhood Council will be having their meeting Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. located at Elm Elementary School. The address is 450 East Elm Street. Myself, as well as our county supervisor, Vianney Lopez, will be collaborating on an event in the Southwinds Park. On Saturday, April 26th, we'll be having a paletas, or otherwise known as an ice cream in the park event for our community members there. And so definitely want to encourage the public to come out. In Southwinds Park is 300 West Clara Street, and excited to be a part of that opportunity. The last things that I wanted to mention is I know I've gotten a lot of correspondences from District 6 community members around our mobile car washes. And I know that there's a lot of work that's happening internally, and I'm hoping that our staff could also share some of the viable solutions and updates on what those solution options are with our community members. I've seen some of the social media content that's out there, and I want the community to know that I'm aware and having internal discussions on how we can support all of our community members within District 6. And then I also just wanted to follow up on an update regarding funding for local groups. I know we had a public comment earlier around providing funding for a local nonprofit organization around immigration rights, and really looking at how we can also potentially establish a citywide campaign. And so really just wanted to provide those updates, and I'm excited to hear more about what's to come on both the mobile car washes as well as funding for our immigration population, as well as looking into a citywide campaign as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Perez. Councilmember.
I'd like to thank the council and the staff and the people that were here tonight. I'd also like to take a minute to just talk about Dwayne Carazat, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The gentleman was a heck of a guy. He was a tremendous asset. I knew him when he worked in the city clerk's office. He always finished his work. He always did more than he was asked, and there came a time when he had enough. Take care. He had enough. And for all of you, myself and everyone else, you need to look in the mirror and figure out when is enough, because this gentleman died way too soon. Way too soon. If you think something's wrong, check yourself out. There's no guarantee you're here tomorrow. So enjoy some life. And I meant my comments about the park with the Takasugi kimono. There is enough animosity in this world right now, and that was an example, something very special. If we drop the ball, I mean, we deserve to have our butts kicked. This is a big deal, an opportunity. Everybody can take their picture, everybody can do their political, whatever they want to do. But it's a big deal and a message for kids that have no idea what those people did, both parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Perillo. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be as brief as I can be with these quick updates. I was going to end with this, but I'll start with it. I think it's important. At our last meeting, I did speak to Councilwoman Dr. Martinez Bravo from the city of Camarillo, who spoke out against a hate-fueled incident that happened in the city of Camarillo. I regret to have to say here again about a similar incident in the city of Ventura. While the intent behind that is probably different than what we saw in Camarillo, the intent or the appearance of hate or hate-filled activities has no place anywhere in this community. And I just want to commend and thank Mayor Dr. Jeanette Sanchez Palacios for speaking out against that it had occurred in the city of Ventura earlier this month after our previous meeting. So I just wanted to give her thanks for that, for standing up as a leader. And I encourage all of us to do the same if we hear or see of hate-filled incidents happening in our community, no matter where it is or who it is. And just a light note on this, Reverend Runyon already brought it up, but name calling, I mean, calling someone a biased political hack, if that's not name calling, I'm not sure what is. But I will say that Mr. Partello, who speaks regularly at these meetings, one thing I've seen him say that I agree with is that when somebody has a weak argument, they will resort to things like name calling or personal attacks. And so I will quote him on that. I attended the neighborhood council meeting for the River Park community last week, and that was a really great discussion, and they're moving forward in some plans they're working with on their control they have over their CFD and providing really meaningful input on it. As Councilwoman Perez had mentioned, I also attended the Cesar Chavez March, as well as the graduation for the building trades, and congratulations to all of those graduates from that day as well. And the same day, Councilwoman Rodriguez had her event at the library, which thank you for letting me hang out for a little while with you all. I know I was bookended there, but I appreciate you offering that time to the community to come in and speak to you one-on-one, and or in that case, it was like 9-on-1. So it was great though. Thank you for that. And Councilwoman Perez also mentioned about resources or connection to them for our migrant community, and I believe that's something we've spoken about or brainstormed already, and I would love to also see continued work and outreach on that. I also attended the Condor High School online class with Councilwoman Basua and Councilwoman Rodriguez, and that was a brief meeting for about a half hour, but it was great as an initial timeout for that teacher and his class, so appreciate the invite to that, and to my colleagues for jumping on that as well. And then, as a reminder, the city manager mentioned it, but April 23rd, next week, the District 1 and District 2 fire maps update is happening at Rio del Norte in school in the South Bank neighborhood. Last few items here, I was honored to be able to be a part of a keynote presentation at the Association of Environmental Professionals with Kathleen Mallory, who was here earlier this evening as well. And I thank her, community development staff, and our assistant city manager, Ashley Golden, for the connection and the preparation on that. And I felt privileged to be able to give context to that audience of professionals on communities like Oxnard, how we'd love to implement all these really great environmentally focused legislation pieces. There are some very real limitations in cities like this, and priorities and how we roll those types of things out. And then there was a fake letter that came to my attention that was circulated in the Fremont North neighborhood located in District 2. This is a letter that had the City of Oxnard logo on it. It was written in English and in Spanish and was delivered to apartment residents, and essentially tried to convey some sense of authority, saying the neighborhood council of that neighborhood and the City of Oxnard were in discussions to institute a parking permit program. To my knowledge, those conversations are not happening. No one's approached me about it. Staff has had nothing about that. The neighborhood council for that neighborhood hasn't met for some time as well. So the chair has been made aware that that claim was being made. There was no contact information, no signature, no nothing on it. And it was asking the apartment residents, please do not park in residential neighborhoods. Please park on H Street, please park on Glenwood, next to the school, but do not park in residential neighborhoods, which it's public parking, it's a public space. So I just want to make that on the record for anyone listening, that if you live in the Fremont North neighborhood, you receive that letter, know that there is no parking restrictions aside from you can only park in one spot for 72 hours. And there's no parking permit program in that neighborhood. And lastly, thank you to Rob Rubin, our IT director, who gave me an update that as of the end of March, I had 1,279 311 reports on my account, and I've probably put in about a dozen since then. But I was curious because 2 years ago it was about 500, and now I'm at that. And so just keeping score for myself, I guess. But everybody has the chance to pass me and like report also. I encourage you to do it. Blow my number out of the water. So anyways, those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move to Councilwoman Basua and then work our way this way.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I want to thank Luli Lopez and Martha Guillen. I was invited to attend a back-to-school night, and they were able to assist me fairly quickly and getting me prepared for that, and I really want to thank them. Thank you so much. And last but not least, I just want to make sure the public knows about the town hall meeting for the California Update Fire Hazard Severity Zone Map for District 5 and 6 on April 30th. That's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilmember Starr, go ahead.
I'll keep this really short. So I just want to thank Michael Wolf of the Public Works Department, our Public Works Director, for addressing an issue that a constituent was having. This involved the cul-de-sac on Ventura Boulevard just east of the Costco there. We had people that were doing donuts in the middle of early morning hours and just causing a lot of noise and making it impossible for the residents there to sleep in the trailer park nearby. And they came up with a solution. It was installed about a week ago, I think, maybe a week and a half, where they put some barriers just before the cul-de-sac, because there's no reason that anyone should ever need to be in that cul-de-sac because there's no addresses there. There's nothing there. So they came up with a solution that was cheap, which I like, and effective, which I like. So thank you very much to him and his team. And that's all I want to report today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilwoman Rodriguez, go
Thank
ahead.
you so much. We had very rich conversations in our office hours this past month, and I just want to remind folks that I'm available, willing, and interested in getting to know you all. On May 3rd is our next office hours at the Oxnard Public Library on 3rd Street and A. I also had my meeting as a representative for the City of Oxnard for Gold Coast Transit Center, and the marquees are up, the lighting is improving in our bus stops, and they did tell me to check out like the marquee that tells you the timestamp of how far your bus route is, or your actual bus on that route is from getting to your stop. So I believe there's one at the Center Point Mall, so check out that bus stop and see if how much we like it. Some of the issues that came up during the office hours were, permits, curb cutting, status on parks, and our website has a lot of great information, so I've been able to close the loop on some of those issues. And I just want to thank the city staff, especially Director Wolf, for all of his assistance. Thank you, Councilwoman Perez, for sharing some of the events that we attended, so I appreciate. Ditto, I'll piggyback on what they all said in terms of which events I attended. And just in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 30th is Denim Day. So for folks who wanted to partake in Denim Day, I'll be wearing denim just to create awareness. And one last thing that I just wanted to flag was there's been some constituents sharing information about the daylighting law, AB 413, of folks not parking too close to the curb. So it's supposed to be 20 feet away from the corner, and we understand it's for safety reasons. And I don't know, there's some allegations or possible accusations that the enforcement is happening mostly in South Oxnard, and I know that there's a lot of density there, so I just, wanted to flag that for Chief in case there's any merit to those allegations, so that we are fair across the entire city of Oxnard and not just, taxing the folks who are in the very dense areas. So I'm hopeful that enforcement is happening throughout and not just in specific targeted areas or specific zip codes, as somebody was implying. So thank you so much. And there are a few constituents that had reached out to me, and I'm still looking into some of those issues. So thanks for following up. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rodriguez, for sharing that. I'll just conclude. Many of you see me, I'm out there. I stay quite busy. I always go where I'm invited. And if anything, just to be an ear to listen and talk. So I welcome those opportunities. And I just want to end with, I just wrote some notes down that I just want to express my sincere gratitude to everyone in attendance here today, both in person and virtually, as well as our dedicated council members that are here to take deep dives into the material that it's a lot to digest oftentimes. And also certainly to our city staff. We see these reports, and any one of us who have had to write them, it's a lot of work. And so it does not go unrecognized, the efforts that you put forward and your commitment to collaboration and seeking solutions to our community is truly commendable. Ultimately, our shared goal is to enhance the quality of life of all community members. In my 4 months here, I have seen and observed significant progress and firmly believe that we are moving in the right direction as a team with all of us here. And as mayor, I just want you to know I'm dedicated to fostering unity and collaboration here as our team. So thank you, staff, sincerely, and all of us here, and the public as well, because this was a great, I think you saw the engagement, a good discussion, ultimately taking everyone's points into account. And I go back to the conversation I had with our city manager at a workshop that we did at one of the committees, which I'm just grateful that we've had those experiences. And I think people are seeing the direction that we are going as a council. So thank you very much. And with that, if there's no further business on the agenda and without any objection, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.